There are a lot of powerful arguments for atheism. For instance, there's the argument from... No, that's garbage. Well, atheists have an argument called... Gosh, that's even worse. No, that's just sad. You know, I simply can't think of any good arguments for atheism. But fortunately for us, someone who's way smarter than I am is on the case. Here's Dr. Jordan Peterson discussing arguments for atheism on Pints with Aquinas.
What do you think the best argument for atheism is?
I don't think there is a good argument for atheism.
See, now that's what I thought. Maybe I'm more smarter than I always thunk I was. There is no good argument for atheism.
I don't think there is a good argument for atheism. I think it's based on a fundamental misunderstanding about the nature of the world. So it's just, it's what would you say? It's an illegal chess move.
It's an illegal chess move. What, you thought you could just take the king out of the game because you're an atheist and you don't know how to mate? But there's a problem with Dr. Peterson's response. The question wasn't, are there any good arguments for atheism? Of course there aren't. The question was, what's the best argument for atheism? Even if all the arguments for a terrible, absurd position are bad arguments, you can still point to the best of the bad arguments. So, what's the best of the bad arguments for atheism?
This might just show that I don't understand you, but we'll get to it if I don't.
The best argument for atheism.
What's the best of the worst arguments?
Materialistic determinism is the best argument for atheism.
But isn't that a philosophical sort of assumption or axiom?
That's a problem.
Yeah.
The best of the bad arguments for atheism, according to Jordan Peterson, is materialistic determinism. I'm not sure what he means by materialistic determinism. That would normally be the view that what happens in the material world is determined by matter and the laws of nature. That wouldn't mean that God doesn't exist. You can be a materialistic determinist about our universe and still believe that God exists. So I'll assume that he just means materialism. Materialism, in this sense, is the position that the material world is the fundamental reality. Everything that happens can ultimately be explained in terms of matter in motion. Now, if the material world is all there is, there obviously can't be an immaterial deity. So if we assume that materialism is true, then God doesn't exist. But as Matt pointed out, that's an assumption.
But isn't that a philosophical sort of assumption or axiom?
That's a problem.
Yeah.
If you assume at the beginning that the material world is all that exists, and you conclude that God can't exist because you've already assumed that the material world is all that exists, that's begging the question. So, the best argument for atheism would be a fallacy. But our materialistic determinist friends can find comfort in the fact that, according to their worldview, if their reasoning is fallacious, they were determined to reason fallaciously. So, atheists, it's not your fault. The universe made you like this. But suppose what we really mean when we ask, what's the best argument for atheism, is, what's the most effective argument for atheism? What's the most effective argument for atheism? Here, the answer isn't really an argument. It's not a fallacy. It's a manipulation tactic. Join our group and you're smart. Don't join our group and you're dumb. Atheists smart. Religious people dumb. Us smart. Them dumb. Them no smart. We smart. Them dumb. If you can convince people that they magically become the champions of some prized virtue just by joining your group and running around screaming, "Sky Daddy, Sky 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 Daddy," you're going to win a lot of converts. That's why atheism took off in the early 2000s. A bunch of gullible young people boarded the good ship Cheap Ego Boost on a one-way trip to Fantasyland. But let's invite them to Planet Reality for a moment. Falling for low-level manipulation tactics and the fallacies you'd hear about on day one of a logic class doesn't mean you're smart. Patting yourself on the back and bragging about being champions of reason and science doesn't make you champions of reason and science. Living in an online echo chamber of "we smart, they dumb" gives you absolutely no reason to think that you're smarter than anyone else. Stop boasting for a while. Close your eyes and think deeply, and you'll realize.
I don't think there is a good argument for atheism.